Welcome back. As we look ahead, we're now talking about the hopes for business in Connecticut in the new year. Joining me for the conversation, Chris Davis, Vice President of Public Policy for the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, also known as CBIA. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you very much, Eric.
Happy New Year. And for your members, what are they looking forward to in the new year? Is there any nervousness? Is there excitement? What are you hearing?
Well, I think it's cautious optimism. Really, coming out of 2025, we had a little bit of a slowdown in the economy potentially. You saw some loss of jobs that took place in Connecticut, our labor force coming down. But there's some optimism, right? We're looking at a new year. We have some new policies coming at the federal level kicking into place. We're having policies here at the state level that are going to be under discussion that really give the idea for these businesses to know that they can make those investments here in Connecticut and continue to grow.
You mentioned the jobs numbers. The last report that we saw was the September jobs report, down about 5,700 jobs. What do you make of that? What led to that slowdown? Is it anything to be worried about?
Well, I think it's partially by that uncertainty at the federal level that we've seen all throughout 2025, where you had tariffs, you had trade policy, you had healthcare policy at the end of the year that really kind of impacted people's willingness to either find a job or businesses to be able to make those investments to grow. Heading into 2026, some of that uncertainty is gone, but still some exists. So it's going to be some of that cautious optimism that we're talking about there. But by having the policies put in place, businesses can have that predictability, stability, predictability that leads to the chance for them to make those investments and grow.
Because I guess part of it, if you're trying to run a business, if it's going to be bad news, taxes went up, tariffs went up, something else bad for your bottom line, just tell me what it is and I can deal with it. It's not knowing the tariff is here one day, it's gone the next day, or maybe they'll pass health care or whatever, and maybe they don't. That's harder to plan for. Is that part of it?
Yeah, and the government shutdown at the end of 2025 really added to that uncertainty for a lot of businesses across the state. And what we really need to see here, both at the federal level and at the state level, is a real focus on affordability. We want to see the legislature, the governor, to the president and Congress talking about making Connecticut more affordable for not only residents, but also for our small businesses that employ so many people across the state.
Let's talk about the legislative side of it, because that's such a big part of your job. What are you looking for from the legislature this year, and is there anything that maybe they did last year that they can continue to build upon?
Well, we really need that focus on affordability for those small businesses. We are the land of small businesses here in Connecticut, employing hundreds of thousands of residents across the state. And we need to have a conversation about making it more affordable to not only live here in Connecticut, but also employ people here in the state. So we need to lower those taxes. We need regulatory reform. That was a really positive thing that we had in 2025. We made a lot of positive movement in that direction. We need more of that heading into 2025 so that we can fill those 67,000 jobs that are currently open here in the state.
And some of that regulatory reform is stuff that might just take one hurdle or one step away from a small business owner. And even having one less application or one less phone call to make, do you hear from your members that can be a big deal?
Oh, that is a huge deal. Just kind of removing some of that red tape. Connecticut's kind of infamous for our regulation, right? And most of the northeastern states are. But by removing some of that red tape, making it easier to employ somebody here in the state, just by that simple change of now no longer maybe filing a paper form, but filing an online form, or being able to track your permit online so that you can have that kind of predictability of when you can make those investments, those kinds of changes are going to make a huge difference here for our economy.
You've talked a lot about filling jobs in the workforce. Workforce development has been a big topic for CBIA and for the state. And I know Electric Boat is a big employer that's doing some cool things, and that's something that you want to look at in the new year for CBIA about maybe expanding it, right?
Yeah, our survey of Connecticut businesses in 2025 showed that 76% of our members are having trouble finding and retaining employees. And you have employers like Electric Boat hiring thousands of new people each year, year after year. And they've been doing some great things down in southeastern Connecticut, partnering with comprehensive high schools, building out those classrooms, getting students in there. The Lee Company down in Westbrook doing very similar work with their school system. We want to see that expanded across the state, and the ability for more students who otherwise don't have access to tech schools to be able to get in and get those types of jobs that are sorely needed in our manufacturing, engineering, and other parts of our economy that need those employees.
Is that something that you're seeing with that Electric Boat program and the Lee Company, that sometimes there's a disconnect, that there's people who need jobs, there's people who need employees, and it's kind of making that handshake?
Connecticut has the residents to fill the jobs. We have 67,000 job openings. What we need is that skills gap to be closed. So individuals having access to training programs, companies actively looking and helping do their part, and we see companies doing their part. Their wages are outpacing inflation, trying to keep and retain employees here in Connecticut. They're making private investments like the lead company EB, Avna, New Britain with New Britain High School, other companies across the state that are actually, putting their money where their mouth is and making those investments. And we want to see the state follow through as well and really help these school districts be able to expand those types of programs across the state. One
of the big questions that I think we're all gonna grapple with in 26 and going forward is AI and how it's maybe making jobs easier. Is that something you're hearing from members, and is that something you'll be watching in the new year? Is that something that can either be maybe some other people are nervous, or maybe it can make some things easier?
Well, I think we're hearing from our member companies across the board that it's really not about cutting jobs. It's really more about finding those efficiencies. When you have so many job openings across the state, being able to be more efficient in the job that you do have makes the possibility for growth even that much greater. So we still have some concerns about potential state-specific regulations in AI that could impact our ability to grow here in the state, but we're confident that with the adoption of AI by so many businesses and our ability to make investments so small businesses can adopt that AI, we can see growth across the state in all different sorts of industries.
You obviously watch this stuff probably a lot closer than many of our viewers who are sitting here on this Sunday morning watching us talk. Are there some things you'll be watching in the beginning of the year as we move farther into 2026 where you might say, oh, I'm nervous about this, I'm nervous about that, or some good indicators? Can you give some advice for people just at home how they can tell what's going on?
Yeah, we'll have a better idea come late January, later this month, about where we are for GDP, where we are for jobs numbers, because all of those numbers have been kind of stalled by the federal government because of the federal shutdown at the end of 2025. So we'll have a much better picture of how we exited 2025 that will give us a much better roadmap for where we're going to head in 2026.
And moving forward, would you say that the businesses are optimistic, are nervous? We got about 30 seconds left. What do you think the general, take their temperature real quick in 30 seconds.
I think it's really that cautious optimism. I think they want to grow, but we need affordability here in Connecticut, whether that be a tax environment, regulatory environment, energy costs, healthcare costs for their employees. All of those things need to become cheaper here in Connecticut for us to really match what we can achieve here in the state, which is great growth, but we need a state government that supports that.
There you go. Well, it's all good information. We appreciate you being here. Chris Davis from CBIA. Hopefully we'll have you back.
Thanks a lot, Eric. Appreciate it.
And that is CT26 for this week, the very first CT26. CBS Sunday Morning is coming up next. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll, of course, meet you back here in Studio A next Sunday morning.